Last night's episode of Jimmy Kimmel Live didn't just stir the pot. It knocked it off the stove and lit the whole set on fire. Before we dive in, please like and subscribe, and make sure to stay till the end. What started as a standard political interview spiraled into one of the most shocking on-air confrontations late-night TV has ever seen. Viewers weren't just surprised, they were stunned. Caroline Leavitt, the youngest White House press secretary ever, stepped onto the stage with the confidence of someone who knew she was walking straight into enemy territory. Wearing a razor-sharp blue suit and a calm but determined smile, she waved at the crowd. Cheers erupted, but so did boos. The room was already split, and the fireworks hadn't even started. She had come prepared, ready to talk policies, defend the administration, and hold her ground. But what she didn't expect was how fast things would spiral out of control. Jimmy Kimmel, known for his sharp humor, started things light. He introduced her with a smile, and she responded graciously, "Thanks for having me, Jimmy. Happy to be here." At first, the interview was steady. They touched on safe topics like gas prices, student loans, and the economy. Caroline answered with the calm, composed tone of someone used to standing at the White House podium. Her words were clear, direct, and carefully measured, but you could feel the tension building by the second. And then the bomb dropped. Kimmel leaned forward with a smirk and asked, "Do you actually believe the stuff you say at those press briefings, or is it all just acting?" The audience howled with laughter, but Caroline didn't flinch. She kept her smile tight and answered, "I speak for the president and the American people. I share facts, even if the media chooses to ignore them." The room grew quieter. Some clapped, some didn't know what to do. The tension in the air suddenly felt heavy. Jimmy shot back, raising an eyebrow. "Facts? That's a bold word in Washington." A few nervous laughs bubbled out from the crowd, but it wasn't the same kind of laughter as before. Something had changed. Something had shifted. Caroline's tone sharpened. "It's easy to make jokes about politics when you don't have to lead," she snapped. "Maybe that's why you're behind a desk and I'm at the White House podium." That one hit hard. The audience gasped. A few people stood and clapped while others booed even louder. "Please like and subscribe. Let's continue." The vibe had flipped completely. Jimmy's face stiffened. He laughed, but the sparkle was gone from his eyes. "Okay," he said, trying to recover. "But let's be honest, your administration is struggling. The economy's shaky, the border's a mess, your boss's approval ratings are in free fall." Caroline didn't miss a beat. "Criticism is part of the job. But what do you offer, Jimmy? Jokes, memes, sarcastic monologues? The American people deserve better than cheap shots from a Hollywood stage." The audience was stunned. People were recording with their phones. Producers backstage were whispering frantically into their headsets. "Please like and subscribe. Let's continue." Then Jimmy turned up the heat even more. He played a clip behind them on a giant screen, a video from one of Caroline's past press briefings where she hesitated while answering a tough question about inflation. The clip zoomed in on her face, catching an awkward pause and a smirking reporter in the front row. The crowd roared with laughter, but Caroline didn't even blink. "That's your big moment?" she said coolly. "A 5-second clip taken out of context? Maybe you should apply for a job at CNN." That one landed like a thunderclap. Half the room erupted in laughter and cheers, while the other half looked stunned. The temperature in the studio had officially hit boiling. Jimmy leaned in, visibly annoyed now. "You always talk about context," he said. "So what's the context for misleading people? What's the context for defending chaos?" The tension was unbearable. Caroline didn't back down an inch. "The context is this," she said, locking eyes with him. "Your show survives by keeping people angry and divided. You don't want answers. You want outrage. I came here to talk about policy, but you came here to win points and stir drama." Phones were up. The audience wasn't just watching a late-night interview anymore. They were witnessing a live political explosion on national television. A producer was overheard saying, "Should we cut to commercial?" But the director reportedly answered, "No. Let it roll. This is gold." Caroline turned toward the crowd. "You don't have to agree with me," she said. "But don't let late-night comedians decide what's true. They're here to entertain you, not inform you." The room erupted into a mixture of applause and shouts. It was bedlam. Jimmy cut in, raising a hand. "Let me stop you right there," he said sharply. "If anyone's deciding what's true, it's the press secretary dodging every real question." The crowd gasped again. Caroline snapped back without missing a beat. "Maybe if reporters asked real questions, I wouldn't have to dodge anything." The back and forth was no longer playful. It was a verbal war, and the crowd couldn't believe what they were seeing. The room fell into a strange, tense silence. All eyes were on Caroline as she leaned in, her voice calm, but cutting through the noise like a blade. "Let's actually talk about facts, Jimmy," she said. "You talk about misinformation, but how many times have you twisted something on this show for laughs?" Gasps echoed from the audience. Even some of the camera crew shifted uncomfortably. Jimmy blinked, caught off guard. "I'm a comedian," he said, trying to keep his voice level. "People come here for jokes, not a lecture." But Caroline didn't even flinch. She stepped right into the moment, refusing to back down. "And I'm the press secretary," she responded coolly. "I don't get a laugh track when I share policy. I stand in front of a room full of journalists and answer hard questions day after day. You have the luxury of hiding behind a script." "I don't," the audience murmured. Some people looked shocked. Others stared at Caroline like they were seeing her for the first time. Even Jimmy's usual crowd seemed unsure how to react to this version of her. Sharp, confident, and absolutely refusing to be steamrolled. "Please like and subscribe. Let's continue." Then Jimmy dropped the jokes altogether. The smile was gone. He stared straight at Caroline and asked, "Do you really believe you're helping people? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like all you do is spin for a president who can barely put a sentence together." The studio went absolutely silent. "Please like and subscribe. Let's continue." Caroline's jaw tightened, but she didn't raise her voice. "Say what you want about the president," she said, "but at least he's not sitting behind a desk throwing cheap insults to get applause. Leadership is hard. Mocking it from a distance is easy." And just like that, the entire room shifted again. You could feel the air leave the studio. Even Jimmy looked like he wasn't sure where to go next. This was no longer a segment. It was a standoff, live on national TV. "I invited you here for a conversation," Jimmy said finally, his voice edged with frustration. "But clearly you came here for a fight." Caroline stood up slightly in her chair, her voice unwavering. "I came here to defend the truth. But if that makes you uncomfortable, maybe you should stick to celebrity gossip and leave politics to the professionals." Boom. The studio exploded. Some people jumped to their feet and cheered wildly. Others booed louder than ever. Phones were pointed from every angle. Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube lit up instantly. Clips of the moment were already spreading like wildfire. A producer backstage was screaming, "Cut to commercial! We have to cut." But the director's voice rang back, "No! Let it run. This is history." The cameras kept rolling. And Caroline? She wasn't done yet. She stood up fully now, pulled off her mic, and turned to face the stunned audience. "I came here in good faith," she said, raising her voice just enough to carry through the room. "But it's clear Jimmy isn't interested in a real conversation. He wants sound bites and viral moments. I won't be a prop in someone else's game." Jimmy tried to regain control. "Well, that was different," he muttered with a weak smile. But it was too late. The power in the room had shifted entirely. The damage had already been done, and it was all caught on camera. As Caroline walked off the stage without looking back, the entire studio was left in shock. The crowd was split. Some applauded her as she left, others booed, but no one looked away. The tension, the fire, the clash. It was unforgettable. Within minutes, social media exploded. Hashtags like Caroline Kimmel, Press Secretary Walkout, and Late Night Meltdown were trending. Clips spread across TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube faster than producers could react. Reactions poured in. Some praised Caroline for standing her ground. Others mocked her for walking off. But no one ignored it. By morning, every major outlet had picked up the story. Conservative media hailed her as a hero. Liberal commentators accused her of dodging tough questions. The moment became more than political. It became cultural. At the next day's press briefing, Caroline was calm, composed, and unshaken. When asked if she regretted walking out, she smiled and said, "No regrets. I showed up with respect. I left with my dignity." Even Jimmy addressed the backlash. On his next show, he looked into the camera and said, "I realize I crossed a line with Caroline. I was rude. I'm sorry." Some appreciated the apology. Others said it was too little, too late. Caroline responded in a live stream with just one sentence. "That's what grown-ups do. They own their mistakes." The internet exploded again. Behind the scenes, her calm under pressure earned respect, even from critics. One insider said, "She just turned a meltdown into a movement, and she did it without shouting." Then came the shocker, a handwritten letter from Oprah. It wasn't posted online, but sources said Oprah praised Caroline's grace and strength, ending with, "Walking away takes more strength than shouting back." Well done. From that moment, Caroline wasn't just trending, she was shifting the conversation. She launched a digital platform for civic education called Say It Straight. No theatrics, no shouting, just clear, respectful talk. And people listened. Late-night shows quietly adjusted. Some comedians added more thoughtfulness to their tone. Jimmy never brought another press secretary on again. Years later, that night wasn't called a meltdown. It was called a reckoning. Caroline never returned to late-night TV. She didn't need to. Her words stayed long after the lights went out.